So, free agency for the Mavericks. Roster is pretty much set for the season. There could be a few changes, but they've already pulled Finney Smith, DSJ. Luka obviously hasn't played 1 minute. That was kind of expected. It sounded like there were a few hiccups trying to get his contract bought out by Real Madrid, but it looks like that was completed. He signed with the Mavericks. It's official, and he will not play a minute during this Vegas summer basketball, but it doesn't really matter. The guy just finished a long season, basically played a championship game 2 days before the NBA draft, so give the guy a break anyway. Even though it sounded like he wanted to play, the Mavericks didn't want him to play and risk getting injured against some of these, no-name guys. Plus, it gave him a chance to look at Jalen Brunson a lot more and look at some other guys, a couple of Aussies they brought in to see if, maybe they want to put some of these guys on the Legends or two-way contracts. Kostas didn't look amazingly good. He was fine, but you can see he's extremely raw. I'm not sure if he gets a two-way contract with the Legends and Mavs, but I think he's a Legends piece for sure. And there's a couple other guys that Jalen Jones looked really good, a guy from A&M. So I think there's a lot of talent there, but the Mavericks are pretty much done setting the roster. So not expecting to see any surprises over the rest of this summer, and no big signings. The biggest free agent name out there right now, because of his contract being bought out, is Carmelo Anthony. Looks like the Rockets may be the leaders in the clubhouse to sign him. And then obviously there's still all the drama surrounding Kawhi Leonard. There's basically been no update on his being traded by the Spurs. Remember that he was asking to go to LA, and it was the Lakers first, and then he kind of had a change of heart when LeBron signed with the Lakers and wanted to be with the Clippers. That doesn't appear to have happened, and there was talk maybe the Sixers would try and put together a package, or the Boston Celtics would try and put together a package, but neither of those look like they're going to happen. I think, as I predicted earlier, he's going to end up getting traded probably around the trade deadline. He's going to have to play, and I think the Spurs are going to try and convince him over the course of the time until the trade deadline in January to stay in San Antonio. That's definitely going to be their goal. Same with the way they handle LaMarcus Aldridge. I think they can try and keep him there. That's about all for basketball. Now, NFL, a couple of interesting stories. There was a fight in an airport in Atlanta involving Pac-Man Jones and an employee of the airport. Bizarro, but it's just like Pac-Man just invites all that stuff. Anyway, get away from former Cowboy Adam Pac-Man Jones. The other big story, at least locally, is the cornerback Marquez White, who was arrested, and not a guy that was going to be a particularly important piece to the team, but still, it's just Cowboys creating drama. It is what it is. But I think it should be a pretty good Cowboys season. I think some of the draft picks are going to end up getting quite a bit of major play. The biggest question has been who is going to be that number one wide receiver. They brought in Allen Hurns from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was a free agent, and I guess the expectation would be that he would be the number one, but he's never really been considered one. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Cowboys and the receiving core especially. can they do kind of what the Patriots have done in the last 5-6 years and win without a number one wide receiver? Obviously, that's the angle that they're taking because they've shown no interest in re-signing Dez or going out and finding anybody else. And the market is pretty much dried up on receivers. So the fact that Dez isn't getting any interest actually says a lot to me, that nobody sees him as the number one anymore anyway. So I like what the Cowboys have done recently. I thought the draft was good. I don't see any of the draft pieces being a huge part of winning this year, but I think this team is still built to win despite kind of a tough year last year. I think they could get to 10 wins. I'm not predicting that. I'm going to predict, I think, over under at 9. So I would go maybe under at 8. But I would not be surprised if this team wins 10 or 11 games and gets into the playoffs and makes a run. They've got the talent both sides of the ball. The question is still the defense. Can that linebacking core stay healthy? Because that's going to be so important. And then, can their defensive line stay out of trouble? Still in trouble this offseason. And they've got some new pieces I think that'll help. And obviously depth is one of the biggest keys on the defensive line. And they have added to that, so I think that will help this season. Secondary, still a question, is still young. They weren't able to bring in Thomas like I think some people hoped they would be able to from the Seattle Seahawks. It could still happen, but I think doubtful at this point. I think they're rolling with this young squad. They're hoping to build around this squad and win with the young team. And at the very least, it's going to be entertaining and exciting. And that's it for this vlog.